we had a discussion where we were trying to pick a theme for Thursdays, because we have a theme for Tuesdays. It's, we deal with social media and helping people improve their social media. And of course, we have website Wednesdays, which are Dr. V's. What are they, Dr. V?
Favorite day of the week.
Favorite day of the week, and really my least favorite day of the week, right up until the minute when it starts. And then I'm into it and I love it. And then after that, it's like, man, I can't believe I did another one of those. Yesterday's, by the way, Ed, was a coffee shop in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes.
I don't get a choice. I never know what we're going to work on. It's just, here, do this.
Are you? What days of the week are you on? Every day?
No, we're on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays most weeks.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah.
And Thursdays used to be our day when we would show off tools and stacks and how do people achieve certain things as a business, in sales and marketing, whatever. Like, what are they using and that kind of stuff. And then, but eventually, we said, we want to open it up.
About that this morning.
About what?
The tools that people are using. Dr. V and I were talking. We were starting to reverse engineer. A recipe site. And wondering, okay, why are they, what are they doing? How are they getting such spectacular results?
Right.
They've been in business for 2 years. We've been in business for 10. Why are they running past us?
Exactly.
And
well, it's a good thing that that's come up, because even as a topic, but we've decided let's open up Thursdays to guests, like additional guests, and have them add topics and stuff that we don't normally cover, but that we're interested in, and hopefully people who watch the videos are interested in. And today's is about search engine optimization, something that I don't really know all that much about.
And Ed is our go-to guy.
Ed is our go-to guy for that.
Yeah.
So you want to?
Yeah. So Ed,
everything.
Who the F are you, and what are you here for?
Yeah, for you.
Well, I'll tell you what. SEO is means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. If you're GoDaddy, SEO means you pay $150 a month and we're going to do SEO for you. And what does that mean? Somebody else, might say, well, SEO with us for what you do costs $20,000 a month. I've had people, I one time had a doctor who called me up. They had been through my entire website, and they said, the guy called me up and he said, I've got 3 different locations. I've read through everything on your website. I can clearly see that you really know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so, how much would it be for this is what I'm looking to achieve? And I said, well, you really, for your market and what you're looking to do, I'm like, you're like at $2,000 a month per location. He was disgusted with me. He said, what are you, some kind of ripoff? Like, I can get, I thought I'd give the business to you because you obviously know what you're doing, but I can get the same thing that you do for $200 a month for all 3 locations. And it's like, okay, so what is really SEO? It's so many people don't understand it. So many business owners don't understand it. They don't understand what's involved. But, basically it's content and it's backlinks. I mean, that's the way it's been since the beginning of time. I mean, it's,
content and backlinks.
That's what it is. And the backlinks are, the higher quality links, the more relevant the links. And then, then there's other, there's parts of it that I don't really know that much about. You're getting into exact match anchor text and all that. Like, I don't really pay attention to that because in the local marketing space that I'm in, you don't really need that serious level. I know some things that might be a little bit dated. I might get laughed at by some high quality SEOs, but basically, if you reverse engineer like a big site, you might find that 50-60% of the links to their site might be brand links, that go to their homepage.
Right.
You might find 20% are going into interior pages. You might have 10% that are the links that are going into interior pages are like relevant word, like exact match keywords.
How important are those internal backlinks?
It's good for boosting individual pages. Absolutely. You want to diversify it. But like the natural structure today, is probably 50 to 60% brand links to your homepage. Then you want some brand links to some interior pages. And then you want some exact match domain or exact match hypertext. What do they call them? What are they called?
Uh-huh.
Hyper something keyword.
Hyperlinks?
Hyperlinks or whatever
Okay.
you call them. That, like the word Mexican, best Mexican food recipe
Yes.
would be the
Yeah.
words in the link. And then
Right.
the underlying link goes to that relevant page. But you don't want to do too many of those. Like you
Right.
want to keep it, like you might only do one of those.
But you want to keep
or
it
two.
natural language in whatever copy you
Yeah,
create.
you do. And but hitting those interior pages is going to help. And then you can. I mean, there's some people out there that are really, really advanced with links, diversifying links. Like when we when we make when we use press releases, we'll use maybe a couple links in a press release. One might go to one page, one might go to something else we published a month ago. Maybe another press release. So you're sending your links in different sources. So that's how we sort of use.
Oh.
Now, if you start to get into like if you want to get into like higher level SEO, where you're going after SEO on like a national basis
Right.
versus
Or
local.
international.
Local's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But
Well,
in
that's
most
what
cases,
that's what I sensed about it. That local was the thing that was, because if you can geographically target your market, then you've got I think in some ways it's a lot easier. You can just be very, very specific.
it is. It's I mean, like for example, one of the things that we've done for I was just on the phone with a real estate broker in New York City, and one of the targets that we went after was World Trade Center office space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he ranks number one or right up there. And it produces like amazing business for him. Now,
Yeah.
if you went and looked at any keyword tools, you're going to find that nobody searches that. But that's not true, because they do. And he
Somebody
gets
does, yeah.
500 visits a month or more on that particular page.
But that's a very high quality, very specific search. I want World Trade Center. I mean, it's
Right. But you know what? I've told that story in front of SEOs,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been made fun of. Like who the heck? Like, of course you can rank for that. Anybody can rank for that. And I'm like, yeah, but we're the ones that are ranking for it, and we figured out the angle.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. The hard part is understanding the strategy behind it.
Well,
And
that
what
does
we
show
found-
intention, though. That's somebody who's very specifically going after. I want this location, and it's almost like there's an urgency. Like I want it now or very soon, even though it's only
Yeah.
500 searches a month.
Yeah, I mean, this guy generates a lot of people that do a search for the World Trade Center don't end up leasing at the World Trade Center because it's too expensive, or they don't have the credit,
Right.
because the landlord's going to, they're looking at your bank statements, they're looking at your credit. You're not going to, but it's high intent, and that generates leads. Now he ranks for office space at the Empire State Building, and so, and many other buildings. So, it really, SEO really comes, and all this internet stuff, it's like sales, it's like, what are the strategies? So it's really, it's really key to figure out the strategies, but then it's, it's content, and it's content and backlinks. But
So when you talk about, so when you mention content and backlinks, my question comes to mind is like, what about social signals in SEO from all these various social media platforms and others? Does that play a role in what you do?
I've heard people make comments about how social media is important for SEO. I guess it is. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's a big mover, though.
Okay.
I saw some guy named Matt Boley who runs a company called White Label SEO. He figured out some social media strategy that nobody had ever heard of, and
Mhm.
it's like, okay, maybe, but there's a lot of ways to get SEO results. There's a lot
Do
of
you-
ways.
Do you when you're coming up with a strategy and the associated tactics, do you optimize only for Google search, or do you go into places like the land of Bing?
No, we're really just looking at Google.
Okay.
Google is probably 90% of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Behemoth.
but there's if you look at your on page part of it, on page SEO, and this is what we were talking about this morning with the Mexican food blog.
With the food
You can
blog,
see what the structure is. The structure of the page is you've got your title, your H1 tags. Then you've got your other bold topics, H2 tags, H3 tags. You've got questions. You've got bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, there's a formula. There's an SEO. There's an SEO formula, and the thing that's interesting about SEO is that Google follows, their algorithm is based on user experience. So, a good piece of content is based on, it's ranking up there because Google knows, and they have created all these different factors because they know that that's what resonates with the consumer. Right. So even though some people say, well, you're just rating for, Google, well, you're not. You're really rating for the user as well. Because if you want to try and say, okay, I don't agree, I'm not going to write for SEO. Well, are you smarter than something that Google doesn't know?
Well, are you smarter than an AI?
But if you look at that Mexican recipe blog, I haven't looked to see how they rank.
Yeah.
But what they did was they created a page structure.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to talk about on-page SEO. Like on-page SEO is like really, really key. You can get a lot further with less links.
So when you say on page, are you really referring to just the first page or each individual
all your pages, page? All your individual pages. Okay. Yeah. Like we could look at like that Mexican food blog, and you can look at the page the way it's structured.
Yeah.
Or,
or how the whole site is structured.
Yeah.
Like site. I was looking at Adam Enfroy. He's another guy.
Yeah.
He's in the last couple of years, like he's really hit the, he's become like a blogging star.
Time. Yeah.
And he's doing really well. And if you look at his blogs, they're really, really nice looking blogs, but it follows the same format. And when I looked at that Mexican food blog this morning, it almost looked to me like she took his course.
It could be. It could very well be. So, I'm not going to, we're not going to promote her right now. So.
But
okay, so I've got some questions then.
Yeah, good.
It's like regular person, quote unquote, regular person questions. Which is what I am in this regard. So, Ed, in the sites that I use, they all seem to be based on WordPress, and they all seem to have this plugin or functionality where after the thing is written, if I scroll down to the bottom of like the back end, where you paste and decide to publish or make it a draft or whatever, there's these bunch of little questions and lights and tools around SEO.
Yeah.
Right. Is that stuff useful?
Yeah, definitely.
Should I care about like doing 100% of that?
No.
No.
There are certain things that, no.
I get like the headline, the meta tag, that kind of stuff, the description, how it shows up, or how it will display. That could be important, I guess. But there's like a lot of like
the title is
stuff
key
down there.
The title is going to be important.
Oh, I'm a big fan of that. I make good money, like rewriting titles for people because they're not getting any traffic on what they already have for their title for their blog post or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So your title is really key. The meta descriptions, we see Google pulling their own meta descriptions based on the search.
Oh yeah.
Really?
And yeah, they'll
Interesting.
modify like a lot of times we don't even use the meta descriptions because Google will pull it based
Right.
on what somebody is searching.
So because I mean, we struggle sometimes with meta descriptions, trying to make them just right, fit right.
Ed
And the
is
whole thing,
saying
what
give
you're
up.
saying is
It's
they're
not worth
pulling it out of the
He says it's
post.
not worth the juice is not worth the squeeze.
It's right. Google is pulling it out based on, because if you look at,
Interesting.
one way to really understand SEO and understand how Google works
Mhm.
is with Jasper. Look at how artificial
Yeah.
intelligence is pulling content.
Which is, by the way, an AI writing
Yeah.
Right.
software.
And what everybody is as search engines become more sophisticated and consumers are becoming better searchers,
Right.
they're digging deeper into their searches to find exactly what they want.
Well, but this is interesting when it comes to using AI. There's a rumor floating around the blogging world in general that AI content, that Google is in the midst of finding a way to ferret out AI generated content which will wind up lowering people's reach when it comes to SEO.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, you mentioned that
Well,
before, and I went on a half-day research thing to
Oh my
figure out
God.
where that came from, and traced it all the way back to that goes back to something done in like earlier this year.
Okay.
It might be as recently as May, but I think it's a bit earlier
Okay.
than that. Where someone who works at Google, Google has a whole like set of webmaster tools, right? And it's one of the, I mean, you basically need to like be conscious and even use their webmaster tools, including the plugin for analytics and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned that it's a less juicy headline than you think. So
It's less juicy.
to break
Okay.
it down to what you said, they consider any automatically generated content to violate the terms of service.
Okay.
Okay. They do not have if they can detect it, he said, then they'll punish it, and they do not have a way to detect it.
Oh, that's fascinating. If we can detect it, but we
Well,
can't detect it.
Right.
well,
Okay.
that's interesting because
So
I
you
was going to say
can
that.
infer from that they're working out a way to detect it,
Yeah, we're not there yet.
right? And with enough, I mean, let's face it, like it's the AI writers are just, it's like we have our software and they have their software, and eventually they're going to figure out with a massive enough, they will inevitably punish a lot of people
Right.
who legitimately wrote their own stuff.
That would
So
be
let
weird
me ask you
because
this.
It's a
Let me
broad
ask you
brush.
this.
software
But
in
they're going to
here.
figure out a pattern or a set of patterns and markers that, when combined, give an indication of a score between 0 and 100 and whatever. If your score is like over 63, I'm making this up, right? Then it's very likely, and you'll either get a notification or they'll just like sort of like sweep you down to page 2, which is like death.
Well, if you were Google and I told you I'm using this artificial intelligence tool to create content, what would you say? You'd say, "Oh, I'm going to punish you." But Google sometimes I think comes out and spooks people a little bit, and some people get spooked and word travels. But you know what? See, the AI tool is you've got different levels of people using those AI tools.
Yeah.
So you have writers that you can pay who are doing nothing but pushing buttons and giving you push button content. So if you don't know what you're buying, maybe you're buying some really crappy content that somebody is sitting there and you're buying it from some service that's selling it to you.
Right.
And all they're doing is they've got people at $3 an hour, pushing buttons and cranking out garbage content. I shouldn't call it garbage, but I'm going to call it AI content.
It's low quality.
Yeah.
Writing.
Well, it's just push button. It's not, it may not be low quality, but it might be just like you push a button. Like I could show you like, the ways these templates work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one new template that like Jasper's got, and it's called like the One Shot Blog or something like that.
One Shot Blog.
And it's creating some really, really smoking content based on the direction you give it.
Right.
Now, the ideal thing is to take that content and then embellish it from there. So if you
Right.
use the tool more of an assistant than your actual, you're relying on it to be 100% writing, you can actually take that piece of content, you can find some very unique ideas, copy that content, put it over here. Then you can go back into some of the other templates and you can give it some direction based on some of the unique ideas that you've came up with that you wouldn't come up with on your own.
Okay,
Maybe
so I
you want
just
to go
found
in and
the one shot blog post.
it's the one-shot blog post. So you could actually, from there, you could come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
And you might go over to the listicle one and say, I want to create a list based on such and such, and it'll give you a list. And then maybe you go back and say, gosh, I want to add some frequently asked questions.
Mhm.
And maybe you create some frequently asked questions. So now what you're doing is you're taking that base piece of content that you just created and you're adding to it, you're layering it out, and and then you go through and you tweak it yourself, to make it really good content. So you're creating some really, really nice content. Then they have another, part, which is the problem, agitate, solution, which is really nice because then you can take that blog. I mean, this is all can be done in just a couple minutes. You can type into, the problem, agitate, solution, and it'll hit you with the, problem, agitate, solution topics. And then you can take that and you can maybe modify your first paragraph. And then you can go through and you can, break down your subtopics, which are your H2 tags, turn them into questions. And now you're starting to create some pretty awesome on-page content.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to take it to the next level, like with Jasper, they have an integration with Surfer SEO, where you can now take that content, you can split your screen, you push a button, and that written piece of content is over on your right.
Wow.
And then over on the left is Surfer SEO, and it's got this meter that goes up, like a speedometer. And it'll tell you how many words they suggest you write for that page, how many headings, how many paragraphs based on competing content. What are some keyword combinations that you should think about adding into your content? And so now you can create some really great content. That's a lot different than somebody just pushing a button.
Right.
So what Google's talking about is that kind of push button,
Right.
somebody's going to push a button, create a piece of content, put it on the internet.
Well, if you create a piece of content and then just put your own voice into this, I mean, I've noticed too that so I just did what you were talking about with the one-shot blog post. I had local SEO strategies for or something like, SEO strategies for your local business, and I said
Yeah.
exciting, and I said for CMOs, but which is that the CMOs are not going to be concerned with local unless it's for their brands. But it cranked. It took a while. I'm not used to Jasper taking this long, but it put up the title. It gave a good introduction, the basic blog body. It gave 4 different paragraphs with 4 different points, and then with a very nice summary at the end. And it's actually pretty impressive for a beta.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. Let's go back to SEO. What we basically do. We're like old school content marketers.
Right.
From back in the day when you create a piece of content and you create a new, an eZine article and link it to the page. Well, today that formula still works. We do that every day. And so what we'll do is we'll create a piece of content and then we'll use like a press release and we'll link it over to, or, we'll use, we use a couple different, sources. I'll use Signal Genesis. We've been using Signal Genesis. We also use Amplifier. We use a combination of the two because it works.
Yeah.
Especially when you start to, like Amplifier or any of the press release companies, when you choose the premium campaigns, like where you get on Yahoo and it gets syndicated through the Google News Network, if you're using that strategy over and over, content writers that are looking for that kind of content will start to recognize your brand name and they'll write content and they'll link it over to you.
So you were saying nothing about Bing, but you're mentioning Yahoo News. So if you can get Yahoo News, that's considered to be a really good backlink for you.
Well, it's Yahoo press releases. Yeah, if you can
Press
get on
release.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the Yahoo's like a Yahoo search engine. I'm just talking
Got
about
it.
there.
So when you have so some people are talking about, taking your videos, like if you do live streams like we're doing, or other types of maybe shorter video content, 10-minute videos. If you take and they recommend taking the transcript and making that into a blog post. Is that something that you have seen done or are familiar with, or do you think that's any sort of
Yeah, you
utility?
could. Well, what you can do. I mean, one of the strategy that's very effective is to start out with your blog post.
So start
And
with
so
the blog
you
post.
start with your blog post and then convert that into a video,
Oh, into
convert
the
it into a press release, convert it into,
okay.
you know, post it on LinkedIn or Facebook. And you can create many different pieces out of the same piece of content.
Create a LinkedIn newsletter.
You
Sure, it's fun.
could. I mean, once you've got the content strategy working,
Yeah.
you can repurpose the same content with many different channels, and you can modify your titles so
Mhm.
that you're using different ways of saying the same thing. You're using, Dean, you would like be an expert at this because you could create numerous relevant titles with
Mhm.
different words and different sequences,
Right.
all linking to the same piece of content. Not copy paste along all channels. You diversify it. Use different words for each title.
Well, with different words, what would you say about taking an old blog post and revising it and adding things to it? Are the Google spiders going to look upon that friend
I
as a
think
friend?
that's a good thing to do. Yeah, that's a good thing to do, is to go back and embellish some of your older content. So you could actually take some content that is dated and you can spruce it up.
Well, I was thinking, like, if
Now,
you had an old blog post that was only 600 words, is there an advantage to going to 2,000 or 1,000, or does it
yeah,
matter?
definitely. You could add more to it. You could add frequently asked questions, or you can break it down into other categories. Now, that's the SEO part.
Right.
What I've been working on, which I'm like totally fascinated with, is Gene Schwartz Brilliance Breakthrough, because
Uh-huh.
that's all about picture words.
Right.
And if you can start to learn how to use picture words, it's going to make your content so much more engaging, because now instead of people just reading words, they're getting images. You're taking a word, instead of like, the word red, red apple, or ripe red apple, all of a sudden that takes on an image which is much different than the word red.
A ruby red. Yep.
Whatever. And so
Whatever
what
it
you
is.
do is, if you can start to develop the skill of using picture words,
Hmm.
you're going to be able to, what I have found that it's worked for me, because I'm not, relative to some of these amazing copywriters out there, I'm not that good at it.
That one over
But
there.
Wait, I'm
that's an
sorry.
amazing
What is it
skill,
you're not that
because
good at?
He's not
what's
good at
that?
writing copy.
I was sorry. I took a quick check to log in and see if I still have like a Jasper account, and like I don't have an active one, but apparently I have 50,000 words in boss mode that I can still use from when I like keeping track of the tools, so I go in
Yeah.
to the various tools like once every like 6 months or so, see how if they've improved and if they're kind of there yet,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I haven't been to Jasper in quite a while, so I figured I'd go back and check. Apparently, I've got 50,000 words that I can play with.
Well, there you go.
But
Hey,
I'm
so
sorry.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So
that's a
that's,
terrible hosting because I wasn't listening to the last thing you're just talking about. Sorry. Terrible.
Yeah.
Bad me.
you're saying that he's saying that he's not an amazing copywriter using picture words, and I just pointed to you. So
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah.
I'm getting better at it.
I am definitely a Schwartz acolyte for sure.
Yeah.
short
Yeah.
tackle.
Schwartz
Hey, so
changed my world. Even though Brilliance Breakthrough is we actually talked about it.
you're talking about
Uh,
slogging through it.
Yeah, we talked about it actually not just before this call. We had a short talk, but also like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Ed, we did a 3 books that like changed how we think about everything show.
Right.
and I at that point I mentioned that the Brilliance Breakthrough by Schwartz was like the toughest slog of any book I've ever read.
The
And
Brilliance Breakthrough
yet,
is
Brilliance Breakthrough, it's worth it. It's on my list, and I've just started reading it again this morning. And I have like a time every morning where I read now, and so I'm working my way through it from the beginning all over again. But that book is just it's a slog because it's basically the same exercise over and over and over, sometimes dozens of times. And yet at the
Yeah.
end of it, it's like a workout. And then it's like, holy
Yeah.
crap, wow.
Well,
You're
yeah, I think it's pretty amazing if you
There's
can.
hiking for a mile, and then there's hiking a mile through mud up to your waist.
Right.
Brilliance Breakthrough is hiking through mud up to your waist. But at the end of it, boy, are your legs strong.
So
No,
strong.
you're right. That's a good analogy. It's I'll tell you a very interesting.
And we would call
short-
that using picture words.
Picture where
You know what?
slogging
A great
through mud
a great
up
book
to your
that
waist.
there's a great book to read if you like the picture word thing, and it's a short book,
Is it a picture book?
but the Pixar storytelling, Pixar
Pixar.
Oh, yeah,
storytelling formula.
Yeah.
You ever read that?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I need to read that.
I mean,
It's
it's
too
like
bad
you're
they
sitting there.
couldn't
It's,
they couldn't stick with it and still be successful. They haven't had a big hit in ages.
Mm.
yeah, well, it's pretty interesting how that guy writes that book because,
Yeah.
it's like watching a movie.
Hey, speaking of pictures, do you recommend optimizing the image titles or the image names, or how do
Yeah,
you
we do that. Yeah, we do.
you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And have names that are, would it be the keywords, or is it
You
just
know what? Anything that you can, any click that you can make
Yeah.
that gives you an edge, I think
Right.
you take advantage of.
And which so that would be true also, like if you made every image had a hyperlink to it, would you recommend that, or is that too much? Like if you showed a recipe, or if you showed the new car and they click, because some people, when you look at heat maps, some people just go there and they click photos. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, I think you can, if you optimize the photo,
Yeah.
There's a lot of different, I mean, that's a good thing. Photo optimization.
Photo optimization. I'm just thinking, like, if you were a fractional CMO, or if you were a COO or whatever, would it be an advantage to your consulting group to have your images clickable? That's what I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
So is Jasper good now? I mean, we're talking about SEO, and we've moved
Yeah.
into the basically how we started this is,
Yeah.
and actually we've gone a little bit over time, so we need to
Yeah.
wrap it up. But we
Okay.
started with content and backlinks,
Yes.
right? And then we talked about methods of backlink, including like press releases. And one of the ways you do that, of course, is you have to have something to link to. And so
Mhm.
that took us into like what to write and how to, what sort of topics or headlines or keywords to focus on. And then from that, we got to the AI writing tools, because ultimately we're trying to generate enough content about enough things so that we get enough links and also, get promoted and like recommended by Google, right?
Rank high.
And now we're into the AI tool, Jasper, which is, along with Copy AI and some others, is like probably the biggest player right now. It has
Writer.
been for a while. And so, like, is Jasper any good? Like, I go in, I mean, for someone like me, I go in every 6 months to see, like, can it do what a junior copywriter would do, so that then all I have to do is fix what it makes. I don't expect it
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
good as me, but
think
there are a
there's
lot of
different
junior
levels.
copywriters in the world, man.
I think it's probably so. No.
I would say that Jasper is, I think it's one of these tools, like so many tools online, that the better you get at it, the more you milk the tool, the better you develop that skill. Like if all you did was create content all day long with Jasper, you'd get really, really amazing at it. Whereas if you go in once in a while, you're not going to get out of it you're not going to get the potential out of Jasper.
So with Jasper, would it be worthwhile slogging through mud of Jasper to get stronger?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Do you
I mean,
think I
it's
should
important to
slog
know
through the
some.
mud in Jasper or slog through the mud for you, Schwartz?
No, I'm
think-
also
I
talking
think
about
he's- I
Jasper
think
because
you
there's
bring
so
them
many
together.
options.
I think you
There's
bring
only a
them together.
priority, right? You have to pick one or the other.
No, I would combine them.
Do
I
yeah,
would-
both.
I-
I
Both.
mean, there's only a certain amount of time per day.
5 minutes a day for each.
5
that 10
for
minutes.
Schwartz is not enough time.
Well, may the Schwartz be with you.
Mm.
Schwartz, you could spend your whole life just studying Brilliance
Yeah.
Breakthrough and no other books. Like I don't even read anything else. Like I don't need to know anything else
Right.
You're on a need to know basis.
because I can't get good enough at it if I deviate. So why bother reading any
Ed,
other book until I really
need to-
master it?
We need to start collaborating on some writing, my friend. I bet you and I together could make some amazing stuff.
Hey, this
Yeah,
could be
I'm
a
that's
match
a,
made in heaven.
all I do. Like I'm not,
Someday.
I don't want to even touch anything
Yeah.
but Brilliance Breakthrough and the Breakthrough Advertising.
Yeah.
Huh.
Breakthrough Advertising, I've sort of got the fundamentals down. I'm sure there's
You even have a
tons-
course on that too.
Yeah,
Great.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff in Breakthrough Advertising. I've read through it deeply
Mhm.
to the point where I started to understand Schwartz. Like I could understand what he was thinking.
Hmm.
And he does mention how years later, like he wrote Breakthrough Advertising, and then like 20 years later, he came back and he reread it. And when he reread it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a different book than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought this was
All the best books are like that.
yeah.
Because your life experience really has a huge impact on how what your perception is of what's in the lines.
And I actually had an experience like that recently, and I'll show you something. So I'm creating a course on case studies right now, and I don't know if you can see this, but
Hard to-
my wife framed this for me years ago when I was selling real estate in the city,
Mhm.
and I wrote this little story here,
Significant
and
coda.
it was about a building I sold down at 11 Gramercy Park in the city. And, the story behind it was that I had sold this building. I was a young guy just getting started. And I'm walking away with a nice big commission check in my pocket from the closing. And it just dawned on me, like, the seller is gone. The buyer could have cared less who I was. Nobody knows I sold this building. So how do I let people know?
Mhm.
So I wrote this 200-word piece of content, and I wrote a story about the building, and I put a spin on how it was. Gramercy Park is an artistic, musical neighborhood. I put that whole spin on it, and I took a copy of it. I typed it out, took a picture of the building. I sent it in to a writer at the New York Times, and they published it.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is that I never read the article after it went live. And until just recently, here it is 30 years later. That was 1992.
Hmm.
And it just dawned on me, why did the New York Times publish that article? I mean, they've got a lot of stuff they can write about. Why did they write? And what it was I created a story around it. And it really started to, and then I started to think about Schwartz. And I started to think about how do you create content? So that was only 200 words. And the New York Times picked it up. So obviously, there's a lot of value in good storytelling content.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's a lot more valuable than traffic. And one of the things that I have a problem with, I shouldn't say, maybe I shouldn't call it a problem, but I see so many people on the internet talking about SEO and traffic generating massive amount of leads. And what I've always been trying to say is that that's not where it's at, because if you just get leads, you're getting leads, like so many leads come in. If for all these local businesses, you could generate a lead like from Facebook or Home Advisor or whatever it is, and you are nothing but a commodity. If you don't have a way to show proof, then you're going to compete on price. And what I realized was that by creating an article like that, which was really a case study, but I turned it into a story, I never understood what I really did. And it only took 30 years for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
3 decades later, yay.
Right.
Well, we
If
want
I
a
had
short.
known, if I could go back and speak to my younger self and say, do you understand what you just did and why that happened? You need to be doing that every time you sell a property,
Right.
because I would have become a household name. It enabled me to build my business, and I've always been able to make money with that core strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And but what was interesting is in my case study course, which is all about how to create case studies, but it's all about really how to create these page structures, these optimized page structures. And I actually went through that article and I typed it out, and I took the template that I used and I took the key points of that article, and amazingly they fit right into this template that I used today. And it's like, oh my gosh, here I am 30 years later, I'm doing the exact same thing. I know this works because the New York Times liked it.
Yeah, you were 3
But
feet
it
from
was-
gold decades ago.
But what I did was I used picture words without even knowing that I was using picture words, and I wasn't even really that good at it. And that's where I'm at, because I think that it's using. I see this all the time. I see this with clients of mine that that have case studies and good content. I see them converting leads at a very, very high price point, high ticket projects, where, like, I tell people, other SEOs, that I'm creating these I'm creating $1 million projects for clients, house painters, that are now painting 100-foot tall silos. And it's all from this content. So SEO is great, but if you embellish it with a story.
Right. So SEO is storytelling, engagement optimization.
Yeah. It's not just about getting leads.
Right.
And there's so many people out there selling leads.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, but you better be a darn good salesperson, because now you've got to start, because the consumer sees you nothing but a commodity. And that's a lot of what goes on in the SEO world. You have so many people that don't understand business, that are in the business of SEO and all kind of lead generation. They don't understand business, and they're generating leads. But a lot of these business owners, you think about, like, if you're a roofer, my gosh, like, if you're just getting lead after lead after lead, and you've got to just go out there and go bid after bid after bid, and you're closing, 1 out of every 10 proposals. What if you created better content, and you created case studies, and your content is more than just an online brochure like everybody else? You're going to convert. You might get 3 or 5 of those, or you might generate more word of mouth. So your market starts to do the selling for you, because they know you, they trust you, you've got proof.
And you have to be unique enough.
I think that's what you have to add to SEO.
Yeah.
To make it work better.
Your special sauce.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's Thursday. Now I got to go look at Jasper again.
Yeah, let's go back to Jasper.
One of these days.
You don't want to be exasperated.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do. The thing is that you can spend all your time trying to figure out how to make money and never make any money in this business. That's one of the hardest things. Sometimes you just got to stick with what works and
be less of a consumer and more of a creator.
Right.
And just find what works, because there are new ways of doing things every day. Jasper happens to be one of them. And I know that if you really focus on it, you can get really good at it, but you have to be able to apply it to what you're doing.
Yeah.
In a strategy.
And it doesn't help you if you've got the skill and you can create great content if you're not applying it in a way that's going to increase your bank account.
There we go. Money. The return
All right.
on it.
That's it for today, and it's it for the week. And we're back on Tuesday with Social Tuesday again. Thank you so much again, Ed.
Yes, thank you.
Great. And it's also nice to come, spend even a few minutes with another Gene Schwartz acolyte.
By the way, one last thing.
Yeah.
I'm with Brian Kurtz next week.
Oh yeah,
3 days.
Yeah, you go.
He's got a live mastermind,
right.
and so I'm there from Wednesday at noon to Friday at noon. So it's basically almost 3 days.
I
And
bet
then
you're
you
going to
can-
have good stories if we talk
You can
after you come
report
back.
back to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be some pretty amazing people there.
Cool.
I don't think it's going to be big, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So
Okay.
All right, that's it for us today. Thanks everyone. Thanks Ed. Thanks Dr. V. John, I don't know what happened to you.
we don't
Hopefully
know.
next week we'll
We'll
see
be
you
there.
again.
all right,
And,
have a good one,
thanks